All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Once again, we are back on a Friday with our happy hours of coaching session. Very excited to see all of you here. And today I have a very special guest, Vivek, with me. I think many of you already know who Vivek is, Vivek Ganesan. And yeah, I mean, technical agility is his forte. He has been a speaker at various conferences, international as well as national conferences, right? I'm sure you have heard about him talking about tech agile practices, technical agility. He's actually more than that, more than the speaker. I would say I would say a creator of two SaaS products, as I come to know, right? And yeah, I mean, a very social person. You'll find him volunteering in various forums. And of course, the icing of the cake happens to be his talk in Agile India. I'm sure many of us would have heard it, would have experienced it in live before the pandemic came into existence. So yeah, now once again, inviting Vivek for this session, today's session. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to invite him. And Vivek is going to talk about a beginner's guide to technical agility. And yeah, I would now hand it over to Vivek to take it forward from here. Vivek, yeah, all yours. The stage is yours now.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, absolutely. Let me see if you're, I think it should allow you to share it, but yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Please let me know if you're having any problems in sharing the
Yeah,
screen.
I am not able to share my screen
Okay,
yet.
wait a minute. I'm just stopping the sharing from my side and you can go ahead. Yeah. Just try.
Yeah, now I'm able to share. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, we can see the screen, Vivek. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ashutosh, for creating this platform, and thank you very much for listening to the people who are joining in. And today's topic is a beginner's guide to technical agility, and I will try to do justice to this vast topic with whatever limited experience I have on ground. And before we go into the topic, I wanted to just introduce myself. My name, one second. Yeah, my name is Vivek Ganesan, and I'm a published author of two books. One is called Blameless Continuous Integration. Another one is called Agile Product Teams, Metrics for Agile Product Teams. And I'm also an international conference speaker. I have spoken in multiple conferences, Agile, DevOps, and a little developer-based conferences also in the past. And I also am a maker of two SaaS products. I'm currently trying to market a product called NotesAli, which myself and my team have built. So I've sort of got a skin in the game in the software development business, and I'm trying to build that product up front and trying to put that in market. And I'm also a hands-on technologist. I still code day in, day out. I am an open source contributor also. I've contributed to open source repositories like Hadoop, Bitcoin, Karma Runner. These are the open source repositories, some of the open source repositories that I've contributed to. And I also blog. I write my blog. Nowadays I've moved to Tech Code Circle blog for writing my blogs, but otherwise I blog on Medium. And also I blog on NotesAli blog also sometimes. And most importantly, I am also a volunteer at a body called Tech Code Circle. And this Tech Code Circle is a body built for helping Scrum Masters and Agile coaches to become Tech Agile coaches. So this is going to connect what I'm going to talk today to the Tech Code Circle. That's a small introduction about me. And coming to the topic, I've mentioned that there is a term called technical agility, right? And not just here, whenever I talk about technical agility, whenever I mention the existence of technical agility, people basically come back with a very strong reaction. Come on, man, yet another agility jargon, right? So there are already a lot of agility. We call the family of X agility, where it is in enterprise agility, leadership agility, process agility, this agility, that agility. And technical agility just comes off as one another thing, so that we could capture a market share, or we could capture somebody's attention using that. So people get understandably irritated by the mention of additional jargon called technical agility, right? So today we are going to talk about a very common point of, is technical agility an artificially created term? That's going to be some part of this talk, and I will give you the answer right away. The answer is a typical consultant answer you can get from a consultant like me. It is yes and no, right? So we will talk about that, and in which scenarios it is a yes and which scenario it is no, right? So this is what we are going to talk about today. Now, we will also cover if you are a Scrum Master, if you are an Agile coach, or if you are a engineer in a team, or if you are an architect. How can you develop yourself into a technical agility coach and competencies of a technical agility coach? This is another thing that we are going to talk about today, right? So let's get started. I'll start with the fundamentals. What does agility mean anyways? People have different interpretation of what agility means. So I'm just going to put on the table what my interpretation of agility is, and what I have seen as an acceptable interpretation of agility, which gives you business results, right? So my interpretation of agility comes with a simple Wikipedia search, and trying to link that to whether a business can become profitable by that or not. So Wikipedia search of agility says that it is the ability to change the body's position efficiently. So typically agility, before this agile movement and all started, agility is a term used in sports. So today I'm going to talk a lot of sports terms, though I'm not a sports person, but I'm going to borrow a lot of examples from sports so that you get this concept right. Not just agility, I'm also going to extend the same examples to technical agility as well, right? So agility is nothing but how quickly you're able to change your body's position efficiently. So take the example of a football player, right? Football player, you call them an agile football player, or you say that this person has a good agility when they are able to quickly change according to where the ball is, and they try to score the goal. And second thing, important thing about the agile person or this agility is they do not stop with that one goal, they do not stop with that one pass, they keep going on. That we call it the sustainable pace, right? They don't break themselves while trying to hit a goal. There is no possible point of having a super duper agile sportsman who hits a goal and then breaks his leg. That's not what we want to do. So similarly, when you apply this to organization, right? Organizations also very same. The organizations which try to change their direction because there is a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? Uncertainty in terms of internal aspects and the external aspects of business. So an organization needs to change direction very fluidly, and it should not break itself in the process. So in other words, agility is nothing but the ability to respond to changes, and it should be done by changing oneself or the changing organization quickly, but without breaking the organization or without breaking the individuals involved in the process. That is agility according to me. If you want a shorter definition, it is flexibility, right? Flexibility where you are able to be flexible, you are able to change the direction, but don't break yourself. This is what agility means to me, and you can extend the very same definition to businesses and organizations also, right? So how do we become agile? Next question. Starting from people, starting from sports people. What do sports people do to become agile, right? Sports people or individuals, they become agile by building muscles for agility. They don't become agile overnight. They gradually build muscles, right? And these muscles help them in keeping agile. These muscles help them in moving whenever they want to change their body's direction. And how do they do it? How do they build muscles? They do that building muscles by following workout programs, right? Very similarly, how sports people build muscles for agility by following workout programs. You take the organization's case. Organizations by building ability. I'm still not convinced with the word ability, but as a placeholder, I put the word ability. I'm not able to figure out what exact word that is, but ability sort of works in this context by building ability to change whenever you need. And how do you do that? You do by following agility frameworks, right? You see a lot of agility frameworks in the market: Scrum, Kanban, Safe, XP, lot of things are there. And these programs, they are not just because you add Scrum to your organization, it does not become an agile organization. These are simply workout programs where by following these workout programs, the outcome will be agility. That is the idea here, right? So individuals build muscles by following workout programs. Organizations build the same muscles for agility by following agility frameworks, right? That is how we become agile. That is how the ability to change direction comes in an organization. Now that we know what agility is, which is nothing but flexibility, and now that we know how people become agile, let's get into the topic of our today's talk about technical agility, right? So before talking about technical agility, I wanted to show you some facts, right, which you already know. I'm not going to show you something very new. Fact number one: almost all organizations are heavily dependent on IT today. Particularly today, almost all organizations, where there are very few organizations where there is no IT component to it, right? So almost all organizations, even non-profit organizations, not only for-profit organizations, even non-profit organizations, they're heavily dependent on IT. When I say IT, we are talking about the information systems. We're talking about, ability to reach to customers, ability to, do sales, ability to, account for the sales. A lot of things are there. So almost all organizations are heavily dependent on IT. This is fact number one, which you already know. And second fact is that most of the time, to change something about the business, IT changes are necessary. Without changing IT, there are very less things that you can do in a business alone. For example, if you want to change something in the way you market your product, you might have to go to the point where you change the way your marketing platform is designed, and that marketing platform will have some IT component in it. So most of the times when you want to roll out a new product line, when you want to change your marketing strategy, a lot of business looking decisions have a hidden IT component in them. So whenever you want to change something about business, most of the time you have to change IT. This is second fact. And the third fact is that if IT is not flexible, it is difficult for the business to respond to changes. Let us say something, a competitor, has started adopting a new marketing strategy, right? Now you want to adapt to that marketing strategy. So, a chief marketing officer can talk all he wants, but unless the underlying IT that supports the marketing platform is changed, it is very difficult for them to change the marketing strategy and marketing tactics also, right? So what we want is, in today's business, you respond quickly or you lose market share. That's the way the market works. And IT helps you in, actually grabbing that market share by changing a lot of things very quickly, by changing your business quickly. So IT is basically the backbone of the organization. And if your backbone is very rigid and it cannot, turn and twist, it does not, respond to twists and turns, and it cannot help in twists and turns, basically you cannot move, right? That's the idea here. Now, with these three facts, what happens is that an organization in itself or a business in itself cannot make any meaningful changes if the IT is not flexible. And technical agility is nothing but, the discipline or the workout program or the component or mindset. There are a lot of buzzwords you can put to it, right? Which helps in making the IT as flexible as you can possibly have it, right? Flexible to the maximum extent. That is what technical agility gives you. Now, many people will come and ask, but Vivek, there is already something called Agile Software Development Manifesto, right? And we have created a framework like Scrum. We have created a framework Safe, which is which is based on this Agile Manifesto. So what new thing are you talking here? Isn't it one and the same, right? So to answer that question, let us revisit the principle number one of Agile software development. So the Agile software development first principle, there are 12 principles which were written by Agile, which were written along with the Agile manifesto by frustrated engineers, right? On how they can make more, meaningful work, how they can do more meaningful work. And the first principle is this: it is our highest priority is to satisfy the customer, right? And through continuous delivery of valuable software. The continuous delivery was a term which was first, I don't know about the first, which was at least used as early as 2001. 2001 was when these principles were written, right? 2001, they envision continuous delivery. Continuous delivery is a very big buzzword today. And we still say, okay, our team is agile. Our team has a lot of Scrum practices, but we are now trying to do continuous delivery, and there are some roadblocks to it. Now, the first principle talks about continuous delivery of valuable software, right? So this was in 2001. And most of the current agile transformations do not enable you to continuous delivery, which means you cannot deliver continuously. You cannot deliver as quickly as possible. The release cycles are not in terms of days. They are always in terms of weeks, right? And there will be some or other reason behind why it cannot be reduced to days, right? And this is just principle number one. And this continuous delivery is possible only when you attack the technical component of how the engineering is done, right? Unless you touch the engineering aspect of the software development lifecycle, we are not going to get to the continuous delivery state. But most of our agile transformations do not directly attack the engineering aspect of it. We talk about processes, we talk about roles, but actual engineering practices are left for the teams to figure out, and this creates a huge gap, right? Now, not just principle number one. Let's revisit all the 12 principles, and I'll highlight all the parts that we conveniently ignore when we do agile transformations, at least most of the times, right? These are the ones that are highlighted here in the yellow are things that we conveniently ignore most of the time, right? Due to one reason or other. And these things require a good technical excellence and technical engineering aspects in order to really get there, right? And technical agility is nothing but helping you to make all these yellow color boxes into non-yellow color boxes so that your agile transformation can really get the benefit of this agile manifesto, right? Or the transformation based on the agile manifesto. That's what we are trying to do here, right? Now, I'll just go through some points which may not be very clear. For example, we do, let's say when we are doing Scrum, in typical agile transformations, we have, we talk about value to customer. We talk about, how we can, deliver value to customer, but we don't talk about continuous delivery, right? And very similarly, if you see, we welcome changing requirements, but we always say we will not take it even late in development. It's specifically the Agile Manifesto says you should be able to take requirements even late in development, but we don't do that. We basically put a gate. We are still in the point of there are DORs, definition of readies, which is the product owner should have figured out the business, or else he's not supposed to exist in the team, right? Product owner is not allowed to experiment and learn from the market. That's not an viable option for product owner. Whereas for an engineer, it's easy for him to experiment and learn because he has this test suites, a lot of CI. There is a continuous integration server which will alert him when he does something wrong. The ability to fail is better for an engineer, but the product owner or the person from business does not have the ability to experiment in our current implementation or our interpretation of how we do agile. That is another aspect. And deliver working software. When we say working software, we don't really know whether a software will work or not. I'll expand on this aspect. And this working software is needed for you to really actually move into realistic, meaningful business agility, right? And sustainable development is another aspect. People should be able to take as much as only without stressing, breaking themselves. That part comes. And technical excellence is something that we just talk about, but there are no actual things that go on the ground in order to mention it, enable it. And architecture is something that we generally ignore when we move to Scrum. When people talk about architecture, we say, okay, that just happens. Right? So these are the things that are open loopholes that are there in our regular agile transformation, which we do not pay huge attention to because we are bogged down with role changes and process changes. These engineering changes always take the backseat in most of the transformations. Now, we often run agile transformations without changing how the core engineering is done. And without changing the core engineering aspect of your product development, we are never going to create a product that can change very quickly. It will not be very nimble, right? So this is the most oftenly seen stage. This is not everywhere, but most oftenly seen stage is this, where we stop an agile transformation as a checkbox after the process changes are done, and then we create a new artificial state called continuous improvement, and we put all our so-called transform teams into that box and say, okay guys, you go and figure out what to do next. And we hope that the teams will figure out how to do continuous delivery. We hope that their engineering practices will get better, but it stops at hope, right? Reality is most of the cases not seen. That is the problem statement that we are talking about. Now, let's say we are doing Scrum. and we are doing only process only Scrum, where you do a process and role only changes. How does it look? It looks like this. You appoint and train a Scrum Master. You appoint and train a product owner. You schedule Scrum events, and you even teach the Scrum Master how to facilitate them effectively. You do regular sprint retros if they are not already done. And retro items are taken into next sprint's backlog. And this stops in most of the transformations, right? Whereas if you really want to see what things are not done, right, there is a huge list that you can create, and this is this list, right? There is no active talk in retros about how we can release more frequently. Right now we are releasing maybe once in a month, or once in 3 months, or once in 2 weeks. How can we continuously improve on our release frequency, right? This is something that is missing in most of our process only Scrum implementations. We hope that the team will get to that, but for some practical reasons, teams do not automatically start conversation on this topic in retros. Again, not all action items. Once the retros are there and it settles down, most of the action items tends to look like this. Talk to this person, escalate to this person, and Scrum Master takes ownership, or someone in the team takes ownership, and it's just that, right? There are no action items that engineers can take back to their IDE and use. The engineers can take back to their development environment and use. That is something missing in the process only Scrum. And third important point is product owner does not has the means to experiment and learn. He cannot really push small pieces to prod, learn whether the customers like it. A/B testing, we just talk about it. How many people do A/B testing? And A/B testing is one small part of it. Like that, there are a lot of things. We expect the product owner to know the business already, and we even freeze the requirements before we start developing. But do we have the ability for product owner to quickly push something to prod and experiment and learn? And change the direction of product? That is something that is missing, and these things do not get spoken about in the retros when you do a process only Scrum, right? Scrum actually expects you to get into engineering practices, but most of the on-ground practices do not look like that, right? And lead time for each work, we never measure the lead time for each work. Lead time is nothing but the time taken before you start working on to the point when it gets done. This lead time most of the times never gets measured, and we don't have a plan on improving it. Unless you improve the lead time, you cannot release more frequently. There is a direct relation between these 2 points, right? And quality is built in and not an afterthought. This is not the case. We always have we write code, think about, okay, now how can we ensure that this is quality, or how can we verify the quality, not build quality in, right? We don't start from what level of quality we want. We don't start from the test cases that we need to pass before we start writing the code. We write code, and then quality is an afterthought to check whether a developer has done their job or not, right? And there is continuous attention. I just stole this line directly from the Agile Manifesto's principle, right? From the 12 principles, there is one: continuous attention to technical excellence. This is something that is missing. We talk about delivery, but there is no continuous attention to technical excellence as such, right? So when you do process only Scrum, it looks like this, where outside it looks good. We call it watermelon, right? Outside it's all green, but if you just dig deeper, it gets red, and there are some black spots, right? Very similarly, there is all green in the top. Outside, whoever can see, leaders, managers can see the outside layer. They can be happy looking at the green outer layer of watermelon. But the moment you take a slice and see what's beneath the green, it's red. And these reds are what the gaps are. And technical agility is about consciously tending to these reds and making them green over a period of time. That is what technical agility does, right? And this is just about Scrum. I'll give you an alternate view of common symptoms of process only agility. When you do process only agile transformations, what happens is these things are checked. I will tell you how. We deploy 2 weeks, okay. We finish few user stories in each sprint, okay. We take quality seriously, okay. But all of these good things come with a but. We deploy every 2 weeks, but not on production. We finish a few user stories in each sprint, but we need some hardening phase before we can release, because we are not confident of releasing it, right? We take quality seriously, but only think about it after development is complete. Like that, for every good thing you do, it comes with but, right? So there is, if the product owner gives you something, you do this thing, and then but. So there are ifs and buts to this process when we do process only agility. And technical agility is basically help you to remove these buts over a period of time, not overnight, over a period of time, so that you don't have to say these buts whenever people in the fear that people will judge you, or you can meaningfully support your business. This is the idea. Now, coming to few workout programs that build tech agility. I spoke about the workout programs there also, right? Scrum, MXP, Kanban. These things help you to build work. These are workout programs that build you muscles for agility, right? Now, coming to, if you zoom into technical agility, what workout programs are there? People call it practices, people call it mindsets. These terms are used interchangeably, but think of them like workout programs, right? Where there is something called behavior-driven development. And this list keeps growing because there are a lot of innovations that many organizations do, and they just add to this list, right? So don't treat this as a list that does not grow, but this is a good starting point for you to start with if you want to get into technical agile coaching, where there is a behavior driven development, where you start with talking about the behavior of the user and behavior of the system in response to the user, and keep that as a starting point, and then do the development. So you would just generally write feature files where you say given, when, then, format, gherkin, lot of things go in that, right? Similarly, pair programming, most of the times pair program is dismissed as something where a junior developer pairs with senior developer and learns from them, but really it is not so. In terms of technical agility, there are a lot of ways in which you do pair programming with a lot of you can actually show cost savings. People generally say pair programming helps, does not show you is waste of cost, waste of money, but actually pair programming, you can show cost savings using pair programming. That is a possibility because you are helping to find issues earlier rather than later. That is another aspect, right? Test driven development, many people know about this. It's a very famous term where you start with a test and then only write the code, right? And there is this continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment aspects. There is something called solid principles, which is about the design of your code. There is a clean code practices about how you can write code that can be easily changed, that can be easily understood by other people, that can be easily changed. If your code cannot be changed easily, your software will not change easily, then your business will not change easily, then your organization will go into trouble. Organization cannot compete easily. So starting with how you can change your code quickly, that is what clean code practices talk about. And domain driven design is another architecture / design aspect. It sort of is in between, where you design in a way that is easy for the software to change again, right? I'm just throwing buzzwords here just so that you could start learning if you really want to learn some aspects of this. And there is another aspect of how do you separate the activity of release from the activity of deployment. Most of the times we think that deployment and release are one and the same. How do you do a release to customer? I do a production deployment. Now, it is possible to separate the release from deployment by something called feature toggles, where you will push things in deployment very quickly, but it will not go to the customer unless the toggle is on. So those kind of things are there. And there are multiple deployment strategies, blue-green deployment, canary deployment. These things can help you give your product owner the ability to experiment and learn from it, right? Continuous monitoring is another aspect. There is something called mutation testing, which helps you to check whether you're writing good test cases or not. And Netflix started this chaos engineering trend where, they even have a tool called Chaos Monkey, which will turn off production servers at random and see whether the business goes on properly or not. And there is a lot of things in this list. So there are many workout programs that you can use in order to build your tech agility muscles, right? This is just a limited list of things that are very popular, right? Now, this looks very daunting, right? This looks very huge. And where does this thing fit? Technical agility enables businesses to be agile without ifs and buts, right? That's what technical agility's aspect is. So we have come a full circle, starting from, okay, there are a lot of jargon terms in terms of agility, this agility, that agility. Where does technical agility fit? Technical agility fits by helping engineers and engineers to build products that can be changed quickly, right? It enables the businesses to be agile without ifs and buts. That is where the technical agility part fits, right? Now, last part. Now I'm coming to the last part of what I'm going to show. where organizations, how do they become how do they start this technical agility journey? They employ technical agile coaches, people like me and some of my friends, and many other people in the international community also, to help their teams in these workout programs. Because if you start a workout program, if you are starting your exercise workout program, you need a coach, you need somebody to guide you, right? So people like us are technical agility coaches who help the teams in these workout programs, and organizations employ technical agile coaches, right? Now I have introduced a new term called technical agility coach. So with every role you get something known as a competency. So what are the competencies of a technical agile coach? This is another aspect that I wanted to cover today, right? um, all competencies for a process coach should be there for a technical agile coach, because technical agile coach ultimately serves towards the success of all the process changes. He is not there to invalidate the process changes. Technical agile coach is there to complement the process changes. It's not, okay, don't do process coaching, do technical coaching. Not that. Do process coaching along with technical agility coaching. That's where it is. So technical agile coach should be able to appreciate, understand, and sometimes pitch in towards process changes and the things that a process coach does. So technical agile coach should have all competences, that the competencies that are required for a process coach. He should be able to swap for a process coach most of the times for all practical purposes. Plus some additional competencies where reading code. This person should be able to read code at least in one language, write code at least in one language. When I say code, it is not just source code. It can also be test code. How do you talk? How do you test? Right? That is another thing. And talking the engineer language, they should be able to converse with engineer and gain their respect and gain a way to work with them very quickly, right? Because they are change agents at the end of the day. And unless they are able to talk to an engineer in a language that they are comfortable with, we basically cannot be very effective, right? And hands-on exposure of some of these workout programs, the workout programs that I showed you, BDD, TDD, this, that, and all these things, a lot of scary looking terms. Hands-on exposure is needed for these things. And they should be able to guide the teams by working with the team. So they should be able to, roll up their sleeves and sort of even jump into a programming session with the team, rather than just lecturing about them. That is something that is expected in a technical agile coach. And as with process coach also, there is a need for continuous upgradation of oneself, because these things change quickly. There are new ideas that float in the market. You need to be able to continuously upgrade oneself. When this continuous upgradation mindset comes, what happens is that you will, and most of the times people ask, where do I have to read code in all possible languages in the world? No, as long as you start with one language, you can always try to find similarities and differences and adapt your approach to next language. We are not people who are experts in languages. I am not a Java expert. I am not a .NET expert. I am sort of a person who knows about technical agility and the approach to become technically agile. I'm not an expert in language. So we don't have to become expert in languages, right? And we need to continuously upgrade oneself. These are the competencies. Interesting thing about competencies like this is they look very difficult to acquire, but all these can be built in a systematic way. So if you want to become a tech agile coach, it is very possible to become technical agile coach if you have a systematic way to do this. We'll talk about the systematic way also soon, right? Now, with all these things, I also wanted to cover challenges for technical agility. What are the challenges for technical agility in today's market? Right? So just a second, I'll just drink some water. So challenges for technical agility. The first challenge is that demand for tech agile coaches is far greater than the supply, which means for today's organizations, not enough tech coaches are available. Particularly in the Indian market, there are very few tech agile coaches, which means for all the transformations that are happening, across the world, tech agile coaches parity is not there when compared to process agile coaches. And this is a huge problem because at some point in time, just because there is no talent available, we will try to compensate in some way. We will try to cut corners in some way because there is nobody to serve you, right? So what happens because of this challenge number one? Interesting thing happens. Challenge number two is that you put the burden on your architects to play the job of a technical agile coach, right? So you say, okay, hey, agile coach has done his job and they say that your team is agile. Now for technical agility, you take care of the team to start their TDD, BDD, this, that, and all these things. Now the problem with that approach is that architect already has a lot of outcomes to deliver on. Right now, changing the team becomes just another outcome. In addition, and architects are typically people who are heavily burdened with multiple things, not just one thing. Now you just add one more thing to a person who already has 10 responsibilities. Now that's not going to play well, and that's never going to become that person's priority, because you already positioned. When you interview an architect, you don't you don't interview for his change management skills. This requires a person to manage changes. This requires a person to influence a lot of people, right? So architect is going to be probably overburdened if you give this role to that person. So just because there is demand, you ask an architect to play it. An architect, though there is a capability for architect to do all these things, it's very difficult for an architect to make it a focus, because they have accountability of deliveries. So accountability of delivery and accountability of process change, these two most of the times conflict with each other. It's separation of concerns, right? It's better to give the accountability of change to somebody else and accountability of delivery, run versus change, right? Running to somebody else, changing to somebody else. So that's another aspect. So architects get burdened because there are no technical agile coaches in the market. And third thing is, current scrum masters and agile coaches, they are a very good fit for becoming technical agile coaches, though it doesn't look like that at the beginning, right? Because if you see the competency list that I shared, they already pass half of the competencies which an architect may not have, right? So half of the competencies, if you see the top, all competencies for the agile coach plus is what I added, right? So current scrum masters and agile coaches do not have a proper development path on how they can actually contribute to the technical agility initiative. You don't even have to call yourself a technical agile coach. You as a scrum master can suddenly start, sorry, not suddenly, can one day start picking up, something and help the team in this technical agility journey. So you can just still be a scrum master. If you want, you can be a technical agility scrum master. You can call yourself whatever you want, but you can actually contribute to technical agility. And once you start contributing technical agility, you can start showing business results also, because you can easily see your release frequency coming down, your quality becoming better, all these tangible things which your leadership and customers want, you will be ready to enable them, right? So there is no lack. Existing organizations do not create a development path. Many people get stuck in scrum master role. Many people get stuck in agile coaches role, and then they think, okay, now I am scrum master, then what? I cannot go in this side, engineering side. I cannot go in this management side. Now I'm stuck in the middle. Now what? That question comes, right? Technical agility coach can be, a way to, sort of develop yourself into maybe a CTO kind of a role, right? If you want to, or a CIO kind of a role. That is a possibility when the technical agility aspect adds to the scrum master. Otherwise, scrum master just becomes a process middle management person who is not a manager. That's a bad state to be. Now, the last fourth challenge is that there is a widespread belief that becoming a technical agile coach is very difficult. Some people believe it is impossible, but most of the people think it is very difficult. Now, these are all wrong beliefs, because becoming a technical agile coach is possible when you gain those competencies, and it can be done in a systematic way, right? So to sort of, what I mentor a lot of scrum masters who want to become technical agile coaches. In fact, the community that I earlier mentioned, Tech Coach Circle is specialized in making you a technical agility coach if you are a scrum master and an agile coach. Sometimes we help managers also to get into that area, right? Where we basically create a development path for you from your today to you becoming a technical agile coach, right? Okay, I don't know how to read code. Okay, we start from how do you read code? Let's start with that, right? So that's the idea. So these are the current challenges for the community. And when we as organizations create a development path, like, making them a part of a community which learns about technical agility, or, giving them enough resources to learn technical agility, like, giving them some, trainings. I'm yet to come across a technical agility training, because most of it's hands-on. It's very difficult to do it in 2 days. Technical agility cannot be imparted in 2 days or a 3 days training. It needs a clear development program which starts from some place and you can lead somewhere. It's like a transformation. It cannot be done in 2 days, right? So that is there. So when organizations remove these last two parts, then they basically are better suited for becoming technically agile organizations, right? So this comes to this is where, it ends. And I wanted to do a summary of what I just spoke so far. I spoke about two topics predominantly: agility and technical agility. For me, agility is nothing but flexibility. It is gained by doing workout programs, both personal agility as a sportsman and also organizational agility. And also, without changing the core engineering work, we cannot move towards a viable business agility. That's something that we spoke about. And to achieve business agility, technical agility is a must more often than not. And technical agility, we spoke about, it can be achieved by workout programs like PDD, BDD, CI/CD, and a lot of that big list. And technical agile coach can help you to become agility, to become, agile. And becoming a technical agile coach is possible with systematic preparation. I gave you examples of Tech Coach Circle, where we are creating a pathway for that, how to become a technical agile coach and all these things. So this concludes whatever I had to share. It's a lot to share on a 1 hour talk, but I tried my level best, and it is not a perfect attempt also. So I'm willing to, answer any of the questions you have at this point in time. And yeah, I'm open for questions now.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek, for the wonderful talk. I think I'm sure people have got a new career path now, and you very well explained, like I mean, the nuances between a normal coach and a technical agile coach, and also the career path. I mean, I really liked the sports example what you gave. Okay, so we will open the floor for questions. One request to all of you, that when you're asking the question, if you can come on camera, that would really be great for Vivek to also know who is speaking. And yeah, please keep questions specific to this talk. So, for example, don't ask questions like, okay, where do I do a Scrum Master certification and all? But definitely, if you can contextualize your questions to this talk, and you can, of course, reach out to Vivek. He has a wonderful community. He has talked about it. The link is there, like on the slide. You can see Tech Coach Circle. So now I'm giving you the permission to unmute yourself and talk. So participants who want to ask a question, you can just unmute yourself now, and you can ask a question. Anyone? Yeah, and if you can come on camera, that would be great. Yeah, Azam, yeah, go ahead, Azam. Yeah. Sorry, Avinash. Yeah. I think you had a question.
Yeah, hi Vivek. Thank you. It is for the really nice session. I got some info about it, but like currently I'm working as a DevOps and as a test manager. So I don't do much of coding, but so like like how I can path my career, like being DevOps and doing all this managing activity. I've done my Scrum Master course, so I'll be trying to move into Scrum Master in our organization only. I'm trying to move. So, like, this word is like new, technical, but it's means I like the word and I wanted to take my career in that path. So, what you can suggest on uh, like me going into technical, means only no technical knowledge on the programming knowledge, only DevOps and testing knowledge. Vivek, you're in mute, or I'm sorry.
Sorry, Vivek, you're on mute. Can you unmute?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. So the people who generally come into technical agility role, right? They would have either, played the role of a developer before, or they would have played the role of a tester before, because, you borrow a lot of basic principles from these two roles. It's very common, right? So nobody starts with saying, okay, I'm doing developer work also, tester work also, operations work also. Nobody starts with that. There is no career path that is available today. So you already have half of it. And my regular answer is try to find out what the gaps are, right, with whatever competencies you see. And if you're talking about specific examples of, since you're talking about how do you learn to code, right? You have never coded, but you want to learn code. So the first part of learning code is reading code. How do you read code, right? Which you sort of would have done if you have started doing that automation testing, Selenium and all. It's nothing but code only. It's not something different if you're doing automated tests, right? So reading code, we have recently started writing a lot of blogs about how to read code and how to write code also for a beginner friendly network, right? Even in the Tech Coach Circle is a beginner friendly community where, you don't have to know anything before you come in. You can start from where you are and go from there. So you can take a look at some of our blogs, techcoachcircle.com/blog. You can see 3 articles on how to read code. right? We start from there. That could be a good starting point for you. I am a little biased because I've seen these articles, but not necessarily they're your starting points. Anywhere you can start to read and write code, you can start, right? It's up to you. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Vinash.
I just need the starting point, like where I should start. So yeah, I'll go through this. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Asutosh.
Yeah, thanks, Avinash. Yeah. So Vivek, there's a question on the chat by Pramendra.
Yes.
Are there formal facilitation techniques for technical agile coaching? I mean, we know about facilitation techniques for a normal coaching. So
Yes.
anything specific for technical agile?
Yeah. So when it comes to facilitation, right? How do you say? The same facilitation techniques that you use for the process coaches, right? Very much apply in the technical agile coaching, and I have not seen you anybody adding a new facilitation technique. But there are some things that you can do. For example, when we are doing something called mob programming, what we do is, as a facilitator, when I teach, I become a facilitator for that classroom when I teach mob programming, and I'm going to do the very same thing that I do as a facilitator for a sprint planning or anything. Whenever I see something going wrong, I say, and I provide enough space for people to put their inputs. It's pretty much the same, just that one important thing is for us to get disconnected from the team at a very what do you say, very, I don't know, we need to be at a level where we can observe what is going on while you are in the group, right? That's something that we need to develop, because if you are an agile coach, we may not be directly involved in what the group is doing. You may not be helping them, or you may not be sitting with somebody and writing code along with them, but as a technical agile coach, you may very well be doing that. So sort of a little bit of mindset shift is needed. I don't know what to call that, facilitation technique or something, but little bit disconnected from what's happening here, though not really disconnected, to a point where you can observe a little bigger aspect than what's right now going on. I'm not sure. I totally confused people, I guess.
No.
Short answer is no, there is no new technique. Long answer is that yes, there are no new techniques, but you should know how to be a part of the team and also not a part of the team when the situation comes. I will put it that way.
I think you answered it very well. I mean, especially you took that example of mock programming, right? I think, definitely there is some, we might have to refine it in some way or the other. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else has a question? Yeah. This side?
Murli here.
Hi, Murli.
Hi, Vivek. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay. I would like to understand how TCC, what is the purpose of TCC? How TCC can help technical agile coaches?
The purpose of TCC is basically, if you are talking about TCC, it is to basically bridge that gap between demand and supply of technical agile coaches, right? Every now and then, myself and some other technical coach friends also, they keep getting asked, hey, I need another technical agile coach, can you refer some? And we sort of fall short of who we can refer to, because they are already in some assignments or something. So the idea behind TCC started with that. Like, how do we bridge the gap between existing, existing, demand versus supply? That is one. And the how, we basically help you to, if you are a member of, it's a paid community, it is not a free community, it is a paid community, right? And you basically get into Tech Coach Circle and start doing hands-on exercises. It's not going to be training program. We are not a course shop. We are not going to give you videos to watch and just give you certification after 2-3 days or whenever you finish watching the videos. Each time you do an exercise, you basically learn something, and then these exercises are all hands-on. So you will really have that confidence when you talk to somebody, rather than you just watched video and start talking about. These two are two different levels of confidence, right? I'm not sure if I answered the question. Is there specific? Are you looking for some specific aspect of it, Murali? I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did answer, but then I'm just trying to understand basically better. I don't know how. Basically, I'm just looking at the ROI that I get as well. Okay, so that's the purpose.
Did you get that answer, or did I not?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Murali.
Vivek, this is Parmeshwar here.
Hi,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hi. Sorry, I will not be able to put on my video on. See, first of all, I thank you to make us all understand the technical agility is like anyone can do it. Okay, because whatever I have heard till now is technical agility is a distant dream. Okay, so you made it easy. But my question is, see, some of them they scare that, see, while you do technical agility, so many architects will be there. Architect
Yes.
means they have 12 years, 15 years of hardcore experience in coding and
Yes.
all, right?
Yes.
So hearing at your training and the approach you are taking, right, it looks quite genuine thing. So I think I will approach you, Vivek. I need your help. Okay,
Thanks. Thanks,
probably I
Parmeshwar.
would join techcoachcircle.com.
Yeah.
Thank you for the session.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Parmeshwar. Yeah, hi. Yeah, anyone else? So Vivek, what I'll do is I'll also request folks who are on LinkedIn Live to get in touch with you. So those of you who are on LinkedIn Live or Facebook, you can get in touch with Vivek. I mean, I'm sure you know his LinkedIn ID. Definitely get in touch with him. And I'm sure if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and ask those, especially people who are not on this Zoom meeting right now. Yeah, anyone else in the Zoom meeting who has got? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mohana here.
Hi, Mona.
Yeah,
Hi, Vivek. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. That was excellent session.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my question is related to architecture perspective. So since we have different kinds of architecture perspectives nowadays, when we talk about BDD, TDD, and also CI/CD, a lot of architecture perspectives are there in the
Yeah.
market. So which one to get adapted, which one to, focus when we are in the journey of tech agility?
I will give you the consultant answer. Consultant answer is always it depends.
Okay.
But I would I would also insist that it is not either or, right? Sometimes what happens is that instead of just focusing on one, what we can do is we can borrow some aspects of one, then take some aspects of another, some aspects of another, and try to create an approach that works for you, right? That sort of has worked well in my limited experience, but again, it's a question which I may not be able to answer effectively without knowing the context. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
So in my opinion, what I believe is, what I feel is, if there are any specific tools or technology that's been using on the current project need, so based on that, being a scrum master or a product owner, they have to adapt to that situation and learn those things. That's what I feel.
True. That's true. I agree.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mona.
Hi, Vivek.
Yeah.
Sharath here.
Hey,
Yeah,
Sharath.
hi. Sharath, yeah, go ahead, Sharath.
Yeah, my question is, we have these engineering practices, right? That is driven development, behavior, or there are a bunch of things which you have shown. So I've seen good amount of articles in Google where we have these advantages and disadvantages. To some extent, I have understood, but I have never seen anywhere like how organizations really got benefited from those, and the delta that they have shown in the form of benefits. Or so maybe I didn't search much, or I just want to know like how we really benefit, organizations really benefit with these engineering practices, and a success stories kind of thing.
Perfect.
Where I didn't see much.
Perfect. I agree with you. There are not a lot of story based. You will see a lot of blogs and articles around how to do this, right? And they will leave it up to your common sense to say, okay, it looks like common sense, it will work
These
out.
are
And
advantages,
that's
these are
yeah,
disadvantages.
yeah.
You break your head and do it.
Correct. But when it comes to technical agility practices, right? One thing again, I will attribute the lack of a lot of stories, both failure stories and success stories, to lack of, for example, who will create such success stories? That's another question, right? For Scrum, Agile, from Scrum, Kanban, all these things, there are Agile consultants who help organizations, and they encourage people to present their success stories in conferences and also put it out in the market, right? Whereas there are not many technical Agile coaches. I have not personally there was one leader who presented about craftsmanship and how he improved in his organization in one conference previously. But I myself have not, helped a lot of the leaders that I help in order to, create a success story and present it in front of team. So I would blame it on our tech coaches community for not taking enough, not doing good marketing of ourselves. That's one thing, right? But that being said, second reason is that these things are not isolated. For example, let's say a team which has a very bad code and which do not have a good release cycle, they start only doing TDD. They'll face more problems than that they have faced before, right? And those problems will become visible. And when these problems become visible, our natural reaction is to, stop doing TDD because we are opening a can of worms. That's another aspect of it, right? So because of which people may not really talk about it. But that being said, there are some stories, very few when compared to other Scrum success stories or Safe success stories. There are some success stories which, I will take the effort to, share, and I can share from my experience some stories also. Maybe I'll put an effort to write a blog at least about it, or make someone else write a blog about it who I have helped. That's something that I can do. But I agree with the state of things. We don't know how to market ourselves. That's true.
Yeah, that's how we get buy-in from the leadership, right?
Correct.
If you want to introduce something, they'll ask, what is the delta that you're going to make in terms of dollars or, rupees? From X to Y, what is the shift you're going to make?
Good question. So
it's difficult to convince unless we have success.
Good question.
Sorry.
Yeah. Good point you brought in, saying I want to help the leaders understand the value of it, right? So there are some techniques that I can share if you really want to do that. There are some techniques that I have seen people doing, right? First thing is not necessarily sharing everything to leaders, but also just trying to do at least one small thing at the engineers level. So instead of doing just switching to TD overnight, you say, okay, in the next sprint, I will take only one user story and try to do TDD there and see how it works for me. And then I will take my learnings from there and try to build on top of them, and then later expose it to leadership. If you want to change everything into TDD, it may be a huge change for the leadership, right? It will affect your performance metrics and a lot of things. But if you're doing it only for a user story, which is not a very high priority user story, you may actually learn something by not shaking the whole system down. That's one thing that you could do, right? That is one possible thing. Second possible thing is that I see the opposite of this thing happening, where instead of engineers, leadership comes and asks, hey, you know what? Now I have to spend a lot of money to hire an engineer. Now I need a risk management plan to show to my leadership about how I am going to make sure that there is a proper return on investment on the heavy investment that I'm making. Today, market has changed. All developer hiring has become extremely expensive. So in the last few months, I am seeing a lot of people approaching coaches like me as a risk management strategy of how they are going to get a proper ROI for heavy investment in the developers, right? Engineers. That's opposite thing that is happening also. So you could sort of talk about that as a risk management strategy, and then it's easier to get a buy-in if that is the case. That's another thing. I'm not sure if I answered your question directly.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks, Sharad. I think Ibong has a question. Yeah, Ibong, Christopher, you can just unmute yourself. Do you have a question? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, just a second. Hi, Astosh. How are you doing? Afternoon.
Yeah, hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Vivek. Oh, thank you for this platform. Honestly, I know I did have an appointment with you, Astosh, but I haven't really kept to date. But this is a new thing compared to the one I actually discussed with you. It's like every day new things is coming up. So I'm really confused. Yeah. I was talking about, we're talking about, Scrum Master before. Now you're talking about agility, and then, Technical Agile Coach. I don't know. Is there, and one other thing, I've just typed in the teachcoachcircle.com, but it's not really coming up with anything. So I don't know, maybe I'm doing a mistake.
Oh, it's a Tech Coach Circle. TECH, not TEACH.
Oh, not TE. All right, correct. Yeah. Okay then. All right, I got that done. Right. So I know you come up with all the Zoom thing, we do all these. What problem I found with Scrum is that there is no video, to actually see how Scrum is being done, in a real life event. It sounds abstract, and I don't know how to to gather everything together to actually lay a hand on it. I think that's the problem. And now you're talking about the technical part of it, the tech agile coach, which just threw me apart as well. So what for somebody who is not into tech, I think I missed the answer to the previous guy. You must have answered it, but I think I missed that. So could you just enlighten in how to get into a technical one, or do you need to? So are we talking about that there is a 2 or 3 aspect of Scrum at the moment? You have the ordinary Scrum, and then you have the tech agile coach Scrum.
Ideally, it is the same Scrum, just that we do not focus on these aspects for some reason or other. For example, I may go back to this slide, process only Scrum, right? Generally, Scrum involves getting into technical agility also, but there are no prescriptions around it in Scrum. They expect the teams to somehow pick up technical agility skills without that Scrum has intentional gaps, we call it, right? Now process only Scrum will look like this, where all processes is working fine, but really increasing the release frequency, those kind of things are not an active conversation as such, right? It's the Scrum only. At the end of the day, we are not trying to say don't do Scrum, do this. No, do Scrum. But if you really want to get the benefits of Scrum, you need to also concentrate on engineering practices. That's what we are talking about, and it is not a new role or new competency that we are creating. It is something that people created. If I just even went back and said, in the 12 principles of Agile, there are some highlighted items which are technical agility related items, right? These were intended, but we generally ignore them when we talk about Scrum and sort of compensate for it. So I'm just trying to fill that gap using a word called technical agility, which is why it's an artificially created term, but for a good reason. That's what I say.
Cool. Anyway, I'll be in touch with you after a show, because I think it is time now that I need to get on board. I need a new career pathway in my life, to be honest. I'm not really satisfied with the label I found myself at the moment. So yeah, I'll get in touch with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we are almost at the end of the time. Yeah, it is. In fact, we are over time, to be very honest, and really appreciate Vivek staying here. So Vivek, if I can just share my screen for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, why not? Thank you.
Okay. So in any case, yeah, I mean, I would request all of you to get in touch with Vivek, get your questions sorted if there are more questions on it. And yeah, it was wonderful to have Vivek here. And yeah, you can connect on our community. I mean, these are some of the community portals here. We have a YouTube channel where this session will be put. Okay, so do reach out on the YouTube channel. I will share the link with all of you in an email. And yeah, last but not the least, I would actually like to thank Vivek for the wonderful session he has given us. And just as a small token of appreciation, we are giving you this certificate, Vivek, just for the help you have given to our community members.
Thank you very much.
So I'll be sending it to you. Yeah, I'll be sending it to you through a formal email. You will get it. But I just thought that I'll recognize this effort and the investment of your time, what you have done for enlightening our community members. So really, once again, thanks a lot for all your efforts. And I'm sure this has really kindled the thought for many people to actually go into this coaching role, right? And I'm sure you will be guiding. You'll be available for them to guide, and I'll ask them to reach out to you.
Yes, feel free to reach out to me for anything. No problems at all.
Yeah, sure. Any last comments, Vivek, before we finally wrap up this session?
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity. I've never got an opportunity to formally introduce technical agility in this level. It made me also think and clarify my own thoughts a little bit. Thank you very much for proposing this topic and helping the community also to learn about it, Ashutosh. Thank you very much for your effort and your team.
Thanks a lot. And so on that note, we will end this session. So once again, thanking Vivek, and have a great evening ahead and a very happy weekend to all of you. Thanks a lot, and bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye.